Alrighty, everybody, so let's map some endocrine system reflexes. We start first and foremost by drawing our guidelines, and I know some of you, especially my live students, are like, oh my goodness, here we go with the guidelines again. But they are super important. They are super important because they allow you to know where you are in the extremity, and also when you practice the fundamentals, you get really good at everything else. So, shoulder line guideline, diaphragm guideline, waistline guideline at the proximal head of the fifth metatarsal, and pelvic line guideline. We're also going to do the plantar tendon guideline here, which is the plantar fascia that runs normally in line with the second toe, depending on the foot that you're working on. And we'll start at the top with the pituitary pineal reflex. And so we're going to go right in the center of the big toes. And that's for both pituitary and pineal, although they are technically two separate endocrine glands, they are in the same location. Then we have the thyroid parathyroid, which is on the medial surface of the neck reflex at the big toe. Then we have the thymus reflex, although again, mostly in children. Right in the center, you'll often see it in maps as like the small dot in the center of the broader heart reflex. Kind of just to give you an idea, since the heart is also a secondary hormone producer, something like that. Now here's where it gets interesting. Let's do kidneys first and adrenals. In order to find the adrenals, it's really, really easy to find the adrenals once you find the kidneys. So we're going to go half above, half below the waistline guideline in line with the third toe. And then the adrenals are basically just going to be on top of that. If you wanted to be super specific and technical about it, it's going to be in between the first and second toe, halfway between diaphragm and waistline guidelines. So the points are a little bit different there, but basically what you're looking for with the adrenal glands is there's going to be this thicker flexor tendon of the big toe, and then there's going to be the plantar fascia. And you're going in between the plantar fascia and the big flexor tendon. That's a muscle, by the way. And then you'll find that little notch, and that notch is where you want to be, which again is going to be different based on kind of the shape of the foot that you're working on. And then pancreas, we use yellow for pancreas, is going to be at the base of horizontal zone 3. Again, another reason why the zones are so important. And then a little bit on the right side, mostly on the left, because pancreas is left side centered. But also something real quick that I wanted to throw out here. Notice how we talk about the adrenal glands as sex, salts, and sugars, right? The 3 S's. But the pancreas is right by the adrenal gland reflexes because of their sympathy. I find that super interesting, that the glands kind of group together according to their function. But anyway. Then for the rest of these bad endocrine gland reflexes, we need to switch to the dorsal view because the rest are going to be reproductive. Okay, so get out your dorsal, medial, and lateral. And let's flip to the dorsal aspect first. Let's map the entire reproductive system, shall we? We'll go to the medial side. First, we have that crescent-shaped uterus-prostate reflex on the inside of the medial malleolus. Then we have the dorsal fallopian tube vas deferens reflex, also muscularly all of that pelvic deep psoas muscular space. And then we come around to the lateral ankle. And the lateral ankle has the the ovary testes reflex halfway between the edge of the Achilles tendon insertion and the crest of the lateral malleolus, which is going to be your hip reflex. So halfway between those 2 points, you have that, that ovary testes reflex. And between the uterus prostate and the ovary testes, the dorsal ankle forms a bridge. And that's exactly what the fallopian tubes do. They form a bridge between the ovaries and the uterus, very much what the vas deferens do, except from an external standpoint, since in the male gender, the ovaries descend into testicles and the vas deferens become the fallopian tube, or the fallopian tubes become the vas deferens, but they connect the testes to the excretory aspect of the male reproductive prostate. So fun little anatomy flipping going on there. And then if we wanted to just like go to the top picture and look at that, we could bridge, and then can't really see the lateral aspect too well, but we can do medial uterus prostate and then just imagine lateral ovary testes. So that's reproductive aspects. Again, if we wanted to think of the secondary reflexes there, also like from a 3D perspective, also really important, you know, pancreas on the left foot, going a little bit more on to the right. Bam. Kidneys, dorsal, really cool in traditional Chinese medicine. There's one of the gates, the energetic gates, is right on the adrenal reflexes. You can look that up in various literature if you ever have some time free on a Sunday. Also, people who have toenail fungus right in the center of the big toenails is that pituitary pineal. Also, one of the reasons why I associate that in my book on foot reading with a depression state is because so go the nails, so go the mind, but specifically the chemical aspect of the mind, thyroid, parathyroid, bam, bam. Can't really see it too well on this angle, but just getting good at like looking at the glands from a different point of view, that'll really help you to understand from various angles, like the reflexes aren't just on the plantar surface, they're through and through, and it'll get you to kind of weave in and out of that mental process as well. Okay, so let's do hands. Okay, so let's do our mapping. So right underneath the big joint, or right above the big joint of the thumb, we have our shoulder line guideline, separating horizontal zone 1 from horizontal zone 2. Bam. Proximal head of the 5th metacarpal creates our waistline guideline. And then in between the proximal and distal row of carpals creates our pelvic line. So that is our basic map. And now we get to superimpose the reflexes onto that. So we'll start with pituitary pineal, right in the center of the thumb. Then we have thyroid, parathyroid on the, what would be the lateral aspect of the thumb, because we're in anatomical position. Western anatomical position is thumbs out, which creates the thumbs on the lateral surface in anatomical position. But if we were to flip the hands to mirror the feet, with the thumbs being the big toes, we would still be on the medial surface. So a little bit of confusion there. So I'm using lateral language because that is the anatomically correct way to talk about that, but just make sure that you understand the difference between medial and lateral with the hands, because it's all about positioning. Then we have the thymus. Then we have the ability to draw the kidneys. Bam, bam, right in the smack dab in the middle of that thenar eminence. And then we have the adrenals medially, or laterally in this case, on top of that. Again, the difference between medial and lateral. The adrenals are more midline, towards the midline, medial, but in the hands, because we're flipped onto anatomical position, that means that they're lateral in this case, but all about positioning, okay? Then we'll throw in also something to just keep in mind. This is the left hand of the client. This is the right hand of the client. So pancreas is going to be on the left hand, and then slightly on the right. Okay. Then we have the reproductive space. So let's move to the dorsal aspect, dorsal aspect, dorsal aspect. Okay. And the lateral side is going to be our ovaries, testes. The medial side is going to be our uterus, prostate. And then the dorsal aspect, fallopian tube, vas deferens. So just real quick, kind of how we do that. And you can always superimpose the other ones as you see fit based on your drawing and your drawing skills. For the face, shoulder line guideline at the eyebrows, diaphragm guideline underneath the eyes at the zygomatic arch, extending the lip line for the waistline, and then the crest of the chin, extending that along. Unfortunately, not as prevalent on a 2D image, but along the base of the maxilla, the jawbone. So pituitary pineal, right smack dab in the center of the forehead. Then we have thyroid, parathyroid. And after thyroid, parathyroid, then we have our thymus, which is going to be at the bridge of the nose. And then we have kidney time. Kidney time is going to be on either side of the lips. And then the adrenal glands are going to be halfway in between the sides of the nose and the sides of the mouth, right over the root of the canine tooth. Then with the face, we don't really need to go through the hassle of going through medial lateral, but it does get pretty cramped pretty quick. So we have uterus, prostate, and then ovaries, testes, and then fallopian tubes, vas deferens. If you wanted to be like super specific for men, since they descend, you could do it that way, but I just tend to view the entire chin area as reproductive. So what you'll notice is if clients come in and they really have a lot of clustering, acne is the big thing that I see here. Or like for men, if they have a patch of their beard that's grayish or has gone gray, like I knew one client who had a patch of gray right over this area had a lot of prostate issues because the area was weak. That bleaching of the tissue, and in this case the hair, transferred into the meaning of weakness. So interesting stuff to work with the face and the endocrine reflexes. Also, oh, we forgot pancreas. Pancreas is going to be on the left side of the face, right over the lip. Also a really important area to note from an acne perspective. So one of the other things that you might want to be aware of is if somebody has upper lip issues, if they get sores on their upper lip, if they have anything upper lip wise, it's going to be that pancreas adrenal space. It's also going to be stomach liver, versus if we have more lower lip issues, that's going to be lower digestive reproductive. So just fun like tinkering stuff that you would want to be aware of with the face. That area has a lot of super concentrated stuff, which is why it's valued so highly in terms of an assessment tool in so many different systems, because it really does show you what the client has to literally face. Moving on to the ears. Ears, we have horizontal zone 1, crest of the helix, horizontal zone 2, base of the triangular fossa, horizontal zone 3, right at that cleft, that ridge in between the Cymboconcha and Cavum concha, the upper ridge and lower ridge, and then the lobe creates zone 5. Yay, that was fun. Okay, so pituitary pineal, bam, right at the crest of the ear. Then we have thyroid, parathyroid, bam, right above the shoulder line guideline. I really view these, the more I work with the ears, the more I find that it's that flap in general. It's above, it's below, it's all of it. Any inflammation here, any tip of the ear, like extra ridges or chunks of cartilage that are not settled right, like all of that is very sinus headspace. Okay, moving on to thymus, which is going to be right at that ridge in the triangular fossa space. Then let's do kidneys. Kidneys are going to be right here in this little nook. And then adrenals, technically adrenals are going to be like all the way in here, I find. So it's a little bit different. There's a little notch in here versus like what I'll tell my students is the solar plexus is going to be in the center of that ridge. But then the adrenal is going to be inward from it. So it's a little bit different from other mapping systems, or maybe the kidney is bigger. You know, it's just that ridge is very much like how the low back cradles the kidneys. And then the adrenal gland is in the upper half of that notch, that cave. Okay, very similar to the face. Oh, we have pancreas. I keep forgetting you, pancreas. In that same cave, we're going to draw pancreas. And then over just a little bit to the right. Then we have reproductive, and reproductive is similar to the face because we have all of it kind of clustered into one area. So uterus, ovaries, prostate, testes, and then fallopian tubes, vas deferens. Okay. And that is how we do it for the ears. So that is how we map the endocrine reflexes on the various extremities. Looking forward to sharing a lot more information in this lesson with you. It's going to be super fun. Lots of really cool stuff in the audio lecture with areas of emphasis. So enjoy.